Welcome to our deep dive on why temporary U.S. workers can get stuck abroad after emergency travel. In this video, we will clarify how U.S. work visas actually function, dispel the $100,000 myth, and map out the most common pitfalls that prevent re-entry. We will also provide a step-by-step pre-travel checklist to reduce your risk. To begin, let's set the stage with a quick agenda so you know what's coming next. Here is our roadmap. First, we will explain the critical difference between your immigration status and the visa stamp in your passport. Next, we will address the $100,000 myth and what it might really indicate. Then, we will examine the most common hidden pitfalls that block re-entry. After that, we will provide practical prevention strategies and a pre-travel checklist. Finally, we will test your understanding with quick quizzes and wrap up with key takeaways. With that in mind, let's start by clarifying status versus stamp. Before we begin, a critical disclaimer. This content is educational and does not constitute legal advice. Immigration outcomes vary by individual facts, employer actions, and evolving policies. For personal guidance, consult a qualified immigration attorney. Now, with expectations set, let's move into the core concept that trips up even experienced workers: the difference between status and the visa stamp. The single biggest point of confusion is the difference between a petition and a visa stamp. The approved petition, for example an H-1B approval, is your legal authorization to work while you are inside the United States. It is not, however, a travel document. By contrast, the visa stamp is the physical sticker in your passport that allows you to present yourself for re-entry at a U.S. port of entry. If your stamp is expired and you leave the country, you cannot re-enter until you get a new stamp through consular processing abroad. This is non-negotiable. Even if your petition remains valid for years, an expired stamp prevents re-entry. Furthermore, administrative reviews at consulates can cause unpredictable delays. But with that foundation, let's visualize how these pieces interact in a simple flow. This mind map places the petition and visa stamp as distinct nodes. The petition branches into work authorization while inside the U.S. The visa stamp branches into the ability to seek entry at the border. Travel bridges these elements, requiring consular processing if the stamp is expired or needs renewal. Consular processing can lead to interviews and possible administrative processing delays. Finally, CBP admission results in issuance of an I-94, which activates status. The Pitfalls branch shows how an expired stamp, leaving during a pending transfer, losing employment abroad, or encountering administrative processing, can block or delay re-entry. Now that we have the big picture, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: which statement is most accurate? Option A. An approved H-1B petition automatically lets you re-enter the U.S. after travel, even with an expired stamp. Option B. The visa stamp is only needed for first-time entry and is irrelevant for future trips. Option C. An approved petition authorizes work inside the U.S., while a valid visa stamp is required to re-enter after travel. Option D. If your employer says fees are $100,000, that is the official government cost to return. You may pause the video now to consider your answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C. The petition authorizes work inside the United States, while the visa stamp is required to re-enter after travel. Options A and B are incorrect because an expired stamp cannot be used for re-entry, and stamps are relevant for all future entries. Option D is incorrect because the official government fees are nowhere near $100,000. Next, let's tackle that myth directly. There is no standard government fee anywhere close to $100,000 for returning workers. Real employer-paid costs for H-1B filings typically range from a few thousand to over $10,000 depending on employer size, public law fees, and whether premium processing is used. When you hear a six-figure number, it often indicates something else is happening. Maybe the original petition was withdrawn or terminated, requiring a brand new petition under the most expensive fee structure. Alternatively, someone may be misrepresenting the situation. Ask for transparency, an itemized list of costs, a copy of the petition or receipt notices, and direct contact with the employer's immigration counsel. Now, to make the contrast even clearer, let's compare realistic costs with red flags side by side. On the left are realistic, documented costs associated with H-1B matters, usually in the low thousands, potentially over $10,000 when including attorney fees and premium processing. These are triggered by extensions, amendments, transfers, or new petitions. On the right are red flags. Claims of $100,000 or more, lack of any documentation, sudden statements that a petition was canceled without evidence, or pressure tactics to comply with unrelated demands. If you encounter the right-hand scenario, ask for records immediately and consider consulting independent counsel. Next, let's examine the hidden pitfalls that cause people to get stuck abroad. 4 pitfalls commonly prevent re-entry. First, leaving the United States while an extension or transfer is pending can be treated as abandonment of that application, forcing you to restart the process. Second, if your employer terminates your employment while you are abroad, you become ineligible to use the old petition for stamping. Third, consular administrative processing can lead to lengthy, unpredictable delays, sometimes for months or even years. Fourth, policy shifts or stricter interpretations can apply if you have been away for a long period, affecting eligibility or evidence requirements. Even a brief emergency trip can inadvertently break your chain of lawful presence if these factors converge. To understand timelines and risks, let's map a typical journey from departure to outcomes. This timeline starts with an emergency departure, followed by requesting a consular appointment and attending an interview. At that point, administrative processing may occur with variable duration. The outcome can be visa issuance or refusal. If issued, the traveler proceeds to the United States for CBP inspection and, upon admission, receives an I-94 reflecting status. Risk annotations appear at the appointment and interview stages for expired stamps, missing documents, or employer termination, at administrative processing for security checks, and at CBP inspection for final admissibility. Now that we've outlined the journey, let's check your understanding with a scenario-based quiz. Question: you are on H-1B, your visa stamp expired last year, and a transfer petition is pending. You fly home for a family emergency. What is the biggest immediate risk? Option A: none, you can re-enter with your approval notice alone. Option B: your pending transfer may be considered abandoned, and you must re-stamp before returning. Option C: CBP will repair your stamp at the airport. Option D: the government will charge $100,000 to return. You may pause the video now to think through the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section. The correct answer is B. Leaving while a transfer or extension is pending can result in abandonment and will require you to obtain a valid visa stamp before re-entry. Option A is incorrect because an approval notice alone is not a travel document. Option C is incorrect because CBP does not repair or issue visa stamps. Option D is incorrect because there is no such standard government fee. Next, let's get practical with a pre-travel checklist to minimize risks. Use this pre-travel checklist to reduce risk. First, confirm in writing that your petition is active and not withdrawn, and understand whether any new filings are merely pending. Second, check your visa stamp validity. If it is expired, try to secure a consular appointment before committing to travel. Third, avoid travel during pending extensions or transfers, if at all possible. Fourth, gather a complete document set: approval notices, employment verification, pay stubs, client letters, resumes, and prior petitions. Fifth, coordinate closely with your employer and legal counsel about timing, responsibilities, and fees. Sixth, monitor appointment backlogs and administrative processing trends at the specific consulate. Finally, maintain a contingency plan for extended delays, including remote work options and family logistics. Next, to quantify costs, let's lay out a simple fee overview. This table shows illustrative ranges for common H-1B related costs. The base filing fee and form version may vary. The anti-fraud fee generally applies to initial filings and transfers. The ACWIA training fee depends on employer size. Attorney fees range based on the firm and case complexity. Premium processing is optional but expedites USCIS decisions at an additional cost. Miscellaneous expenses include courier and administrative items. Actual totals typically fall in the low thousands to over $10,000, far below six-figure myths. Next, let's crystallize the core takeaways you should remember. These are your key defensive moves. First, always distinguish your petition status from visa stamp validity. Second, Avoid travel during pending extensions or transfers. Third, verify your employment status in writing before you leave. Fourth, plan for consular delays and carry comprehensive documentation. Fifth, scrutinize any claims of six-figure costs and demand proof, including itemized expenses and legal contact information. To reinforce these ideas, let's add one more visual snapshot. This pie chart summarizes common contributors to delays. Administrative processing frequently accounts for the largest share, while appointment backlogs vary by season and location. Missing or weak documentation can generate additional consular questions and slowdowns. Issues with the underlying petition also play a role. Strengthening documentation and planning around known backlogs can significantly improve your odds. With the big picture covered, let's wrap up with a concise summary. In summary, remember that your petition and your visa stamp serve different purposes. You need both in the right contexts. Treat six-figure cost claims as red flags and ask for documentation. The biggest traps are leaving during pending filings, being terminated while abroad, and getting caught in administrative processing. Prevent problems with proactive planning, strong documentation, and careful timing. In emergencies, coordinate immediately with your employer and counsel to preserve re-entry options. Finally, before we say goodbye, here's one last diagram to reinforce process ownership. This flowchart clarifies control points. Employees control travel timing and document readiness. Employers control petition filings, withdrawals, and support letters. USCIS controls petition adjudication. Consulates control stamping and administrative processing. CBP controls final admission at the port of entry. Each node is a dependency. Lack of cooperation or unexpected delays at any point can derail timelines. Understanding who controls each stage helps you plan contingencies and communication strategies. Now, let's close with our final message. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. We would love to hear your experiences, questions, or tips in the comments. Your insights can help others avoid being stranded abroad.